We are back on Morning Line. It's our final segment this morning, talking about violence against women. The very worst of it, of course, is when it results in murder. And Tennessee ranks 5th in the country for men murdering women, as you see there on the screen. Heidi Bennett's with us from the Metro Police Department. She's the Police Crisis Counseling Supervisor. She keeps busy. Another woman who keeps very busy over at the YWCA is Sharon Roberson. Thanks, both, for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
So next month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I guess meet us at the Bridge. That's the event held every year. It's going to be October 5th. Right?
Yes.
And it is it a walk?
It is a meeting in the middle of the pedestrian bridge in downtown Nashville, and it is an opportunity to honor those who have lost their lives to domestic violence, but also to honor those who have done a lot of work towards domestic violence as well. So it's a great event, October 5th, Saturday at 10 a.m. So you're more than welcome to come. Come out and be a part of that.
Yes, and will there be just mingling? It'll be hosted by the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence. And
yes.
Any speakers then, or is it more just an acknowledgement and you're out there sharing time amongst each other?
No, you'll hear testimonials from family members who have lost loved ones, and they talk about that, and it's part of a healing process for them, and it really is honoring them and honoring the person that they've lost. But it's also very educational to the community if you really want to know the long-term community effects of domestic violence. At the part of the awards ceremony, you'll hear about the good works that are done in the community for those who advocate for change for domestic violence victims. Okay, that's great. Well, again, that's October 5th. There's going to be a YWCA Lunch and Learn on Tuesday, October 15th, right? Yes. And where is that going to be at? That's going to be at our office at 1608 Woodmont Boulevard in Nashville. And it's very important because we have engaged in these lunch and learns for the community, and the reason for that is we think that education is the key. In addition to these lunch and learns, we also have a domestic violence 101 person that goes into the community, and we're welcome to provide this information to any group that wants to hear about really the signs of domestic violence.
There is a helpline. We always want to remind that. And we're going to put this out a few times. 24-hour crisis and support line for the YWCA. Who should call that line?
Anyone. It could be a victim of domestic violence, a friend of a victim that wants more education, because really friends can help by providing information. You know someone is struggling, or you think they might be struggling, you can call this to get more information about what you can do, the resources in the community. You could call in and say, I'm in this situation, I need shelter, and we'll work with you then. So it's anyone that either wants information or is in crisis. If you are in crisis, you can call this number. Okay, and you see the number there on the screen. Talk about the Metro Office of Family Safety.
Well, that is a very exciting thing. Yes. January of this year, actually March, was the grand opening. There is a new family safety center that has opened up. It's at 610 Murfreesboro Pike, right across from Foster Avenue, and it is a one-stop shop, a co-located group of agencies that are here in Nashville to help people who are coming in that need help with domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, child abuse, child physical sexual abuse. So it is a one-stop shop where the Office of Family Safety Advocates are there to help and support. There's orders of protection help. There's a food pantry there. The detectives come over to the Family Safety Center side of the building and talk with the victims when that needs to happen. The counseling section, I'm one of the supervisors with the Family Intervention Program at the Police Department, and we offer counseling and advocacy to victims of domestic violence, yes, but all victims of violent crime, free of charge. So a lot of times we get called up front to talk with someone. Legal Aid is there, Department of Children's Services is there, National Children's Alliance is there, Morning Star Sanctuary, which is a domestic violence program. They also assist with orders of protections there, and also the Mary Parrish Center that provides transitional housing.
It's like one-stop shopping.
Yes,
all
absolutely.
you need there, which is great.
Absolutely, and it's very easy, accessible to get in, and it is a lovely, lovely facility.
But again, that number is not one you would call necessarily if you are in crisis. The number would be yours, that 800 number. Now, and I liked what you said about it doesn't have to necessarily be the woman or whoever it is that's being that makes that call. It can be a friend. Now, on the other hand, too, with law enforcement, well, I can share a story with me. I was house sitting for a friend once, and I heard next door I was going at it. It sounded like it was getting physical. So I called the police, okay? And I called, and then I could peek through the window and see is that officer. And boy, by the way, police officers, and I know, and this is true, that's one of the most dangerous calls they make because of the emotions and gosh knows. And these officers are so professional, and they showed up, knocked on the door, and they answered the door, and just like Joe said at one point, the woman's crying and all this, but she's like, oh no, I'm okay, everything's okay. And I'm thinking, oh no, this was going on. And then the idiot punched her in front of the cop. See ya! You're out of here. They carted him away right then. But I mean, I made that call, and I had no qualms about it. I was glad they don't say who makes the call. But talk about that in terms of, one, making the call like you just did to inquire for information to help. But if you see a domestic situation or you hear it going on next door in the neighborhood, I'm going to call on it. You can remain anonymous, right? Yeah. And I don't really care. I don't care if that guy knows who it's me. Come get me. But I mean, what do you do?
Well, you hear see something, say something, right? And that certainly applies to domestic violence situations. So it is always a very good step to go ahead and call the police, let the police handle it. They have their own protocol, their own procedure on how to handle it. We may not understand what the outcome is, but we will start to accumulate that history. And the good news is that the police department, Metro Police Department, has a lot of programs that are going to keep looking at those homes where there have been repeat calls. There's a high-risk intervention panel, and that is a compilation of several agencies, not just the police department, but the district attorney's office. Yes, all of the agency providers that are going to look at these cases and watch them. We also have a new VAPIT team, and that's a Vulnerable Adult Protective Service team, looking at the elder abuse part of that, because that presents some very, very unique factors when you have two older adults that are in abusive situations. We also have something called Handle with Care, and I certainly want to promote that. Handle with Care is a model program that started in West Virginia, but it is a program that is a partnership between the Metro Police Department and Metro Public Schools, so that when the police are called and children are witnesses or victims themselves, or they've experienced some kind of trauma, very basic information on the child is noted on the police report so it can get funneled to their school. So the school will know to initiate trauma-informed practices. And what that means is being sensitive to the child's needs, not necessarily knowing exactly what has happened to the child, but it gives them notice to handle with care. So if a child has been up all night because of a domestic violence incident, then the Handle with Care notice is sent.
I never even thought of that. That's something that, gosh, that's real important.
So what if that child had a test that day, right? So yes, and so nurturing and just sensitivity can happen around that. And so that is a phenomenal program with the police department and the school system.
Forward into how, there's the ripple effects here. And you didn't think about that for how long. You don't address the children that maybe were up all night hearing a fight or, God forbid, witnessed something that, and the police are called. Well, I'll say in the news business, when we do stories on these homicides, it's never, oh, this was the first time. Whenever a woman's been shot and killed by someone, and we go out there and the guy's arrested, and I'm doing a perp walk with him, and he's denying it, and I'm in his face with a camera, and then we go and pull his criminal record. There were a bunch of calls. And there may have been even restraining orders, which they can only do so much. If a guy's determined, unless he's in one of your YWCA shelters, these women rather, I mean, and you guys can only do so much under the law, but it's never the first time. We know there's a track record every single time, and it was building up to this. And that's what's so frustrating. Why couldn't it have been stopped? But again, it's circumstances. You can't just proactively get someone and lock them up because of what they're going to do.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's although it's frustrating to go through this process, people are very scared about going through the process. The good news is that there is a lot of help and support to help you navigate through this process.
That's crucial.
Yeah, it is.
And how you can maybe try to maintain safety once this rap sheet started growing before it gets to the point where he shows up with a gun.
Yes. So there is outreach that is being done with those victims. They are being looked at very closely. And again, between the high-risk intervention panel, there are so many committees right now that are looking at those cases and looking what they can do to promote healthier, safer homes and to reduce that number, and hopefully we're going to push back from number 5.
And that's the hope. And I think, Sharon, too, as we kind of wrap things up here, Tennessee obviously is a big Second Amendment state, and no one here is advocating taking guns away from law-abiding citizens. But I know some worry about these red flag laws that might come into fruition here or they are in other states. And I think if written properly, it can make sense that if there is a clear sign of someone with a rap sheet of domestics, that maybe that's a red flag that this individual should not have access to a gun. And I would think even reasonable gun owners could be on board with that if they could be convinced it's only structured for those folks who could be a real threat.
Well, for those who have actually been convicted of a domestic violence offense, there is actually in place now for them to give their guns to another party or give them to the police. The problem with that is the process is real clunky, and it is not easy, and it frankly doesn't get done. So that is one step that, you know, with all good intent, the implementation has been lacking.
Mention it to your lawmakers.
And Davidson County now has a firearms committee that is looking at those kind of laws and what can be sensible dispossession laws down the road. So you're absolutely right. It is a call to legislatures, but it has to be very sensible legislation.
Thank you both for coming on today. We'll talk more about this, but really appreciate great conversation. You two are terrific. Thank you
very much.
Take a break and be back with the programming notes about Monday right after this.